Hello, I'm Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco, and welcome to another edition of the RSO Roundup. This will be a first for us. This is a follow-up of a previous show. We did a show a little bit ago about fentanyl, and again, we have with us Master Investigator Jim Peters.
Glad to be here, sir.
Glad to have you back. And the reason what we're doing today is we told you all, if you have questions, make sure you ask us questions and, we'll get them answered. But the response was kind of overwhelming from this. And what we realized is there's a lot of information about fentanyl that people don't know or don't understand. So we're going to talk a little bit today about, we're going to answer some of these questions. I have a list. We'll go into them and maybe if it leads into something else that, we forgot last time or that pops into our heads while we're talking, we'll go ahead and do that. But I just want to update everyone from before when we did the show. We are currently now 16. We
Correct,
have
sir.
16. We've arrested 16 people, and the DA's office has filed 16 persons with murder.
17 people. One of the cases has two defendants, and 14 of those cases are state cases, and 2 are federal.
Very nice. So we are working very hard at combating this fentanyl selling, dealing, supplying problem that we have. And based on the questions, I think it's a two-front thing. I think it's a drug use issue. It's a fentanyl, the danger of fentanyl. It's we're obviously seeing more of it because of the openness of the border, coming across the border. And it's just something that it's new. It's
Yes.
relatively new. I will say that I'm unbelievably proud of what the team has been doing, what you guys have been doing, the work to be able to build up a homicide case on these suspects, how you're doing it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I wish – at this particular time, I wish I could double the size of your team.
We're ready.
But we can't. Yes, I'm sure you are. But unfortunately, we can't. We're working on it. But imagine what we could do if I did double you.
And we keep seeing in our investigations that people are seeing it, people are reading about it, because in our interviews and our interrogations, people are mentioning, I'm reading the press and I see that this isn't just murder. This is murder, and they really mean it, and they're taking us to court over it.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why I was we need to answer these questions, and this is certainly an important topic. But for me, very frustrating for me that I don't feel like the media is doing a good enough job getting this out there. I think it's, we have to sit and watch the news and read the papers all the time about the same things that really don't matter. They could be sensationalist stories or about celebrities, going on vacation. Who knows what it is we're
tattoos.
Getting forced to read about, while we have our kids and adults and generally healthy people killing.
They're falling to this. That's absolutely. There's no better way to describe it than this is a war. We are at war, even though we haven't declared war, and you're right, they're ignoring it. Yeah,
it's frustrating. So I'm glad that we're able to do this. I'm glad that we're able to provide this information to our readers, and we'll go ahead and get into some of these questions, and it'll lead into some other explanations and everything else. But I don't know what the order was, why I was provided in this, whether this is how they were asked, but we're just going to take them as they go. So the first question is, can fentanyl be mixed with vapes, candy, and marijuana? And I guess the easiest answer for that is, of course it can. It can be mixed with anything.
People are smart. They'll come up with an answer to anything.
Yeah. And what I want to emphasize is what we're seeing is we are finding fentanyl in every drug. So even the people that are they're buying cocaine, they're buying methamphetamine, they're buying heroin, they're buying marijuana. They're buying, other pills that are made specifically from fentanyl to look like the legitimate pill. But the illicit drugs, the typical drugs that we see, we're finding fentanyl in all of those.
Yes, and I'm sorry, sir, people who are specific on their drug use, and they don't know. I only use cocaine. I only use meth, and it's being slipped in. You're absolutely right.
Yes. So for everyone listening, fentanyl is a very cheap synthetic opiate. And because it is cheap, because it is being smuggled into this country at unbelievable volumes, we're finding it everywhere. And the drug dealers are mixing it with the other drugs, not only to make it that much more addicting, but it's in the instance of heroin. Heroin is already addicting. But if you mix fentanyl in it, you're going to get a completely different high, if you will. The effect is going to be different, which brings back more clients. Yeah. They're building up a clientele that they're the best drug dealer out there, or I've got to have that drug again, so I go to that. And in the case of cocaine, obviously that is complete contradictory terms in terms of drugs. And one's a stimulant, one is a depressant, narcotic, and it's a completely different effect. But that person using methamphetamine or cocaine, mixing it with an opiate is a completely different high, and now they're going to go back to that. And now we're even finding it in marijuana. So marijuana, which is not a physically addicting drug, it's psychologically addicting, but physically addicting now you have to have it. And the problem with fentanyl is you don't know how much you're getting. And
Correct.
That's why these people are dying.
That's absolutely true. We've only had one case that we can show that's truly documented by law enforcement where it's been loaded into a vape. Mm-hmm. But we've confirmed that. So that means there's plenty out there that we aren't aware of. If there's only one case we've seen, we know that's just the
tip of the iceberg.
Correct.
Right. So the answer is yes, it can be mixed in anything. It's mixed with other drugs. One of the questions was, and I said it, candy.
I'm assuming they mean edibles, that kind of thing.
I hope so, because regular candy, I don't think.
No, that's a whole.
It's a different. Yeah, we're talking about different things. Excuse me. So the second question: do the homeless have it? Of course they do. Everyone that uses drugs has it. And sometimes they know about it and sometimes they don't. Hopefully you're able to splice that because that came out of nowhere.
Do you want more water?
I'll be fine. I'm going to stop talking so fast. I'm going to let Jim answer. So the next question is, where do most people buy it? Where are you finding it?
Unfortunately, there isn't a most, so it's available like any other illicit item. You can buy it on a street corner from your traditional, what you see on TV drug dealer. But because of what it is, how easily transportable it is, we have a lot of cases where it's purchased online, delivered online. It'll come in the mail. So it's literally everywhere. It's at everybody's disposal. We have juveniles, we have adults, everyone can get it. If you have a cell phone and you have an Instagram or Snapchat or WhatsApp account linked with like your Apple Pay or something like that, anyone can get it at any time.
Yeah, I read a very disturbing article, and I want to say it was either from CDC or maybe the FBI or something, but it was that the predominant way of finding it or buying it now was Instagram. Amazing.
The advertising, they're not even subtle about it either. They'll take the idea of M30s have basically become a brand. People, that's what they look for. That's what they expect. Hey, that's a great high. And then they'll do a twist on that. Do you want to buy the color of the pills are mostly blue? Do you want to buy blues? Do you want to buy 30s? Or they'll sell jerseys. Hey, anybody looking for a Kobe Bryant 30 jersey? Well, he never wore 30. Everybody realizes what they're trying to get.
Mm-hmm. It's scary. The amount of ways they can reach you, or that your kids can reach out and
it can be completely anonymous. When you're buying something, you have no idea where it's coming from. Is it coming from Corona? Is it coming from New York? You don't know. So that anonymity, again, with cellular devices, this is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, unreal. Next question: are deputies safe when handling fentanyl?
I sure hope so.
I do too. So that's an interesting question, and we're just taking these questions straight off of how you had it. But yes, we are safe. When we come across any drug that we believe has fentanyl in it, or we believe is fentanyl, we take all precautions, because we know that you can have an inadvertent contact with that drug, and you can be affected by it.
Absolutely. And because of everything else that's going on in our society right now, deputy sheriffs have become much more attentive to their personal protective equipment, masks, gloves. They keep that stuff in their front seat. They keep it in their pocket. So no matter where they're at, they have it. They're ready to go. When we do an investigation, we know we're walking into a scene where there is fentanyl enough that it killed somebody. We have a safety officer. Our sergeant stands by with our Narcan while we deal with whatever we're dealing with, so that if it affects me too, he drags me out and starts saving my life.
Yeah. So just so everyone knows the seriousness of this, we have had instances in our department where deputies have been transported to the hospital because experiencing the effects of fentanyl when they're dealing with it.
Yes, sir.
So it does affect us. It does happen. This goes into the next question of can you die from an overdose via skin absorption? So I'm going to answer that two different ways. Yes, you can die from an overdose of especially fentanyl, because you never know how much you're going to absorb, and the minuscule amount that it takes to kill you is tiny. But for everybody out there, we absorb things through our skin. So that powder, if it's a powder form, you're going to breathe it. It could be on your skin. You could touch it. That drug does absorb into your skin, into your bloodstream, so it can affect you. So if you come across it, if you're a parent and you find a powdery substance in your kid's drawer, or even an adult and you find it in a friend or a roommate or your spouse, I mean, it could be anyone, you shouldn't just go ahead and touch it and smell it and taste it to see what it is.
Do the old school.
Yeah, we certainly don't want to do that. So on to the next one. What are the warning signs to look for in children if using? That's I think it would. That's a big question, because I think what we need to say about that is you should really be concerned about what your kids are doing anyway. Changes in behavior, changes in whether they're reserved, if they're always outgoing and now all of a sudden they're reserved, or they're just acting differently. You shouldn't automatically assume drugs. You should assume you need to spend a little bit of time with your kids to find out what the issues are, but. There's not a warning sign for fentanyl in your kids. It's the drug use, and what you should be afraid of is the kids experimenting in any type of drug use and accidentally coming across fentanyl, or purposely, if that's what they're given, and then it being detrimental to their health and safety. So that it's with this fentanyl. There's I've said this numerous times. There's no responsible drug use.
No, there's no margin for error.
Yeah, it's and there's no getting it back. We're talking seconds. So
yeah, that's a very global question. So that's a hard thing to answer. And if somebody were to come up with it, that would be worth as much as a cure for cancer or something like that. But we see on a regular basis, it's not the subdued kid. It's not the wallflower, the kid in the corner, the kid who's suddenly getting bad grades. It's stellar athletes, people who have been accepted to Ivy League schools. That's what's different about this drug. It's hitting everyone. There is no stereotypicalness to it. So be a good parent. Yeah.
And I want to tell parents, you're talking about that athlete and things like that. And I spoke with a mother who lost her son to fentanyl, and he was a star athlete. And as she learned later from friends and everything else, he was a football player. He was a very good football player and well-built, athletic kid. And he was suffering from injuries
pain
that
absolutely.
Didn't want anyone to know, because he wanted to keep playing. And so he was obtaining what he thought were painkillers, and it ended up being a pill of nothing but fentanyl, and he ended up dying from that. And so we have to realize that it could be anybody, and it doesn't have to be that reserved kid. This was a very outgoing, happy athletic star that was trying to keep playing.
Big future in front of him, probably looking at colleges and things like that, and trying to
make sure he stayed on that field.
Well, it's not. I'm sure he wasn't looking short-sighted, but that's a little bit what it was. I've got big things ahead. I need a pill or something to fix it.
Yeah. Horrible. So how do you know how to identify what fentanyl is or even what it looks like? That could be anything.
Yeah.
So I will say for all of you out there, fentanyl is in pure form is a white powder substance.
And it could almost be confused with something between a mix of straight powder like powdered sugar or crystalline substance like what we see in methamphetamine, something right in between those. But yeah, just white stuff. Could be Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
It would look about the same consistency.
Yeah. So if you're finding or noticing baggies with residue in it, or something like that, you would maybe an adult would say, "Oh, is that cocaine?" or whatever it is. It could be fentanyl also. It could be cocaine, but it could have both in there. Okay. And so you're going to see that white powdery substance. However, the M30 you already referred to, M30 is an oxycodone. M is Merrick, and 30 was the dosage. And so those pills have been they no longer make them.
No, they've been discontinued for a while, but it's an easy thing to counterfeit.
Yes. So the opiate epidemic, those pills were discontinued. And what we're finding now is they're made in backdoor labs.
Yeah.
Typically what we're seeing and where we're seizing it is it's being made in Mexico and smuggled across the border in pill form. And they are blue pills with a number or the letter M and the number 30 stamped on them. And if you find those, that is going to be fentanyl.
Yeah, that's counterfeit what you're holding in your hand if you find that.
And it's not an oxycodone. It is binder, filler, and fentanyl.
And you hope that's it. I mean, they could be putting rat poison in it. It could be anything.
Yeah.
But
so it's along those lines, they've made it look like ecstasy. They've made it look like Vicodin. Yeah. They've made it look like Percocets. Mm-hmm. They've made it look like Valium. And so if your child or your spouse or any relative or your friend has pills that do not have their name on it with a doctor's prescription, I would assume that those could possibly be fentanyl, and you should avoid them.
Yeah, something that didn't come in a prescription bottle or a manufactured and sealed bottle like you're getting at the store, that's something to be questioned.
Absolutely. On to the next one. Is it policy to use gloves when searching for safety or limit contact with it? I'm going to say yes when we know it's there, but sometimes deputies don't roll around with rubber gloves on all the time, and we come across it sometimes on accident. Yeah. And when we do find that, then we obviously glove up and we mask up so we don't breathe it, and so we don't touch it because we know the dangers of it. So that's kind of like a yes. What do officers do when they find fentanyl? That's kind of easy. I guess that's self-explanatory. Well, it had to be asked. So yes, hopefully we're going to take someone to jail for the possession or for the selling of that fentanyl. We treat it almost like a hazardous material. We know the danger of it. We know the potential of it affecting us and hurting us. So we treat it as such, and then we obviously secure it. We take it as evidence. Eventually when the case is done, it's going to be destroyed. But we certainly treat it like the risk and the serious substance that it is.
Absolutely.
I'll let you introduce or let you answer this one since I'm talking too much, I feel like. How can one safely and anonymously test drugs for fentanyl?
So anonymously, do it by yourself. But test kits are available through Amazon, specific to any kind of either medication or narcotic. We get ours specialized so that we can use it as a presumptive positive. We could testify that more likely than not, based on this legitimate test, that this is what it is. But you can buy the test strips on Amazon for about $9 for 10 of them. If you're at a point, though, where you're worried, hey, I've got a substance here and I don't know what it is, maybe ordering test strips and testing it yourself isn't the best idea. Where it came from, how it got there, worry about that, and then either contact us, a school resource officer. There are all kinds of people. The public health department, fire department, everybody is becoming embedded in the idea of fentanyl because of how much we're running into it.
Yeah.
So
I want to throw this out there for, I don't know who asked the question or what it was, but hopefully, it's a parent asking it. But if it's a drug user that cocaine is their drug of choice or methamphetamine and they just don't want fentanyl in there, I'm hoping, the best answer for that is you need to get help for that issue.
Yeah.
And let's assume that fentanyl's in it, and let's assume that we can't do it anymore because fentanyl's always going to be in it. And maybe let's work at getting help for that issue that we have.
Yeah, your time and your energy and your money to buy test strips can be better used for something else.
Yes. The next question, how do we warn children and siblings of drug use and how to avoid it? I think that's just a communication thing. I think that as a parent, we have to talk to our kids. And I will say that, me growing up, certainly I was defiant in some situations, but when my parents told me something, it's like, okay, that's the gospel. And I know that when my kids were growing up, when I told them something, every question was, well, why? It wasn't that you told me. That's fine. You told me, but why? Yeah. Why can I not do that? Why should I do that? And so I think you just have to learn that art of communication and just explain to them the dangers, explain to them the consequences. I will say that there's a lot of YouTube videos out there, and there's a lot of informational videos that are coming out now about fentanyl. You should research them, and you should show them to your kids. The idea of this is not don't take fentanyl. The idea should always be there's no reason to take drugs. You shouldn't be experimenting with drugs, and the potential of addiction and disasters in your life and now death and accidental death from fentanyl poisoning is real. And I think that's how you should talk to your kids. And I think I don't want to say it's a motto, but one line that I see used quite frequently with fentanyl is one pill kills. And there was a time where, I will say that, a kid may go to parties, high school parties or adult parties, and they're pill parties, and people are bringing pills, and they randomly take something to feel good for the night or something like that. And the reality now is you can't do that anymore because you don't know what you're going to take, and that one pill could be the one that kills you. And it could not even be a question. And the seriousness of fentanyl is how fast from the time you take that pill until they're going out.
Yeah.
And if we're not there right away with some Narcan to bring you back, chances are you're not going to come back.
Yeah, we had something exactly like what you're describing in December of 2020. I'm not going to say where. I'm not going to say the person's name because it has been in the news and there has been an investigation about it. But that was exactly the person who was hosting the party contacted someone else and said, bring pills. I need to be a good host or hostess. And because everybody was taking pills, they weren't noticing, hey, our friend hasn't moved here in quite a while. They tried the old, let's put some water on her face. No, that didn't work. But enough time went by that CPR and Narcan and everything could not save this person. Mm-hmm. It probably was a matter of seconds from when she took what she took. But this is a bigger question. How do you stop your kids from doing anything? How do you talk to your kids about anything? We have honest to God war going on in Eastern Europe right now. We have death from COVID. We have fentanyl. We have all economic problems, all kinds of things. You need to look at not just individual issues. Be a good parent. You have adult children, as do I. I like to hope that we did a good job, and time will tell. But it can't just be, how do I stop my kids from using drugs? That's not the only evil that we see in this world. In our profession, we see a lot of monsters exist. Mm-hmm. You can't tell your kids there's no such things as monsters. I've met them. They're sitting next door in our jail. So again, this is a bigger issue and more important for parents to dig into. I'm going to be a good, dedicated parent, not just keep my kids away from drugs.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well said. Here's a good question. Why do people want this drug so much?
We have a admonishment that we read to anyone who is contacted either in the midst of an overdose. Obviously, they will survive it because we're going to read them an admonition. Or anyone who's arrested with, around, under the influence of anything to do with fentanyl. And it explains, hey, This is a synthetic. This is a man-made substance. This didn't come from a poppy plant. It is between 50 and 100 times more powerful, more potent than morphine. Morphine and all of those opiates are highly addictive the way they hit the brain. This is 100 times more potent. That's why. This is the newest thing. I feel like we're in a sci-fi movie. This is the future, but no, it's now. This is the newest thing, and it hits people in a way where it's more important to them to get their next dose of fentanyl than it is to pay their bills. It's okay to rob grandma. We see a lot of that kind of stuff coming back.
Yeah. One of the worst things that I've heard from the team during one of those investigations was a young lady that had taken fentanyl. She had went out and someone had called and we actually got there relatively quickly. And we administered several doses of Narcan, brought her back to life. And she made the comment that as soon as she gets out of jail, she's going back and buying more.
Yeah, I was there for that. It was 2 great deputies out of Harupa. They got there super fast. They had their Narcan. They saved. This person was literally dead. She was dead. But for the miracle of modern medicine and Narcan, they brought her back. And she told them, I'm not going to tell you where I got this because I need to go get more. No, time out. You were dead. Yeah, I get that, but
I need more.
I can't get away from that feeling of I need it.
So to answer that question, this is so powerfully addicting to your body. That drive is just overwhelming.
It's not just it'll never be me. That's the teenager's excuse for everything, right? Those people, well, they took too much. It won't be me. This person knew it was them. This person was sitting in an ambulance and was barely conscious and still realized, I had a 50-50 chance of dying just now. I'm going to go do that again.
It's crazy. It's very crazy. It's scary. How many fentanyl death-related cases have we had in Riverside County? I don't have the exact number. It's pending toxicology. We're running toward the end of it now for last year, but we're pushing 500.
And that would be just straight fentanyl toxicity. We're running into a lot of what you were talking about where people are buying what they think is a Xanax, but it's a counterfeit Xanax and it's got fentanyl in it. It does have alprazolam or Xanax in it, but we're seeing a lot of mixed drug toxicity as well. So that number 500, that's just straight fentanyl, not other associated
combination
factors.
Of yeah. So it's a seriousness. It is something serious that all of us need to be worried about. I mean, as far as we're concerned, the amount of effort that we're putting into the special team, the enforcement part of it, the resources that we are putting out there, that urgency needs to be felt by parents and family members and grandparents and aunts and uncles and anybody that has a friendship or a relation with somebody else. You need to be concerned about the accidental possibility of taking fentanyl if it's something that you're not supposed to be taking. The next one, what is Riverside County Sheriff doing about fentanyl situation? I hope we've explained that a lot. Maybe that was a beginning question or you just didn't maybe not have seen the entire episode, but we're doing a lot. We're doing a public outreach.
More than everyone around us, absolutely.
Outreach into our schools. We're doing everything in the media that we hope we could get out there. Surprisingly, it's not what you would expect. I am notified almost every day of someone – pretty much every day of someone dying from fentanyl. And you would think that that would make the news.
Yeah, you would think.
But we're doing everything we can. We're hoping that our media that's supposed to inform us can eventually come along and make that happen also. But I know the district attorney's office is doing a lot with public outreach. Some of our other police departments, our municipalities are reaching out and doing a lot of public awareness. So we're doing everything we can. I'm going to say no matter what it is that we do, it's not enough. We need everybody talking about it.
This is an original step, though, to have an enforcement team. There is a lot of money to be had through grants through the state and federal government having to do with harm reduction and things like that. So we don't want people to die, but we want to get down to the source. We want you did this. Yeah. There's criminality involved here.
Absolutely.
We need to get more of our local agencies on board with that.
Absolutely. One message that I want publicly known to every single person out there that does that, I guess that may be ordering drugs or whatever it is, but they're purchasing them from someone. And I want that someone to know that when you sell those drugs, someone is going to die, not if, they are. And when that happens, we will find you. We are going to arrest you and charge you with murder, and you have the potential of ruining your life and spending the rest of your life in jail if you're going to sell drugs that contain fentanyl in Riverside County.
Yeah. This direct from you. And like I said at the beginning, we're running into it a lot where people are telling us, yeah, I realized I saw a news article, but I mean, that's not me. Yeah, it's you. And this isn't just us puffing our chests. This is, we've taken a lot of people to jail. They're sitting either with no bond available or $1 million bail with murder charges. This is not a joke.
Yeah, it's not at all. And then the final question, and we're over time, what we normally do anyway, but this is certainly important enough to keep going. Do our open borders dramatically increase this drug's presence on the streets? I will say a resounding yes. We noticed that quite honestly, we noticed it within the first month of our new president with the executive orders that he signed that opened up the border, and with the crisis that we all saw of people coming across the border. It's not just people; it's an overabundance of drugs. Our seizures for 2021 were substantially higher than any other year, and we're on pace to blow those away in 2022. And with that is fentanyl. We certainly have seized enough this year to kill every person in Riverside County.
Oh, and then some, absolutely.
And it's a serious problem that we really need to get this information out. So I'm glad we came back and did an episode number 2, a part 2 to our fentanyl series. And if we have to keep coming back and doing more, we will. Jim, I appreciate you coming here again.
And I appreciate the opportunity, sir, that you give us to take a different angle on this, not just talk about it, but that you formed our team in 2 weeks. Our team will have been together for exactly 1 year. And we keep trying to do good work for you and do God's work. And we'll just keep fighting the good fight.
Absolutely. We'll do it. So thank you again. Thank you all for watching and listening. And we will see you the next time on the RSO Roundup.